Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending where you are in the world. Thank you for looking to this video. This one will be about, on the request of the team, of a man and a brand with a real full respect that I met due to a call. I received a phone call from the head of communication of a fashion group from Milan. This lady is called Giovanna Alderisi, and she was directing the whole global communication of the group and this brand. And she asked me if I could come in Milan to meet Mr. Virgil Abloh. What I did. I went to the meeting in Milan and arrived in this office where ladies brings me to a small office, very classical, with big photos of a mountain on the wall, and I wait, sitting and looking to the magazines and the art books which were on the table. A man was arriving with a hood on the head and shake his hand and look at me and said, "Hi, thank you for coming." Always super polite. "I'm looking for a thinker, not for a producer." And so I took it on the right-hand side, saying, well, we'll try to think. Let's try to talk. And we begin to speak about architecture. We begin to speak about a new culture. We begin to speak about the generosity of sharing, of the bridge who should be between an extreme knowledge of handcraft, of couture, to what some call streetwear, and how streetwear could be considered like bad fashion, and how it is not, and how, again, everything is linked from art, design, architecture, clothes, when clothes are on our skin. All that is not image or storytelling. All that is real life. And though, based on that, we begin to work. The first collection we made with Off-White, we were looking for a venue who could be the more architectural as possible, something iconic, something modern. And the production scout in Paris, a lot of space, until they proposed to me quite almost 20 of them. We chose one, which was a construction of Marcel Breuer, and it was the UNESCO. An amazing structure in concrete, with outside green space with art sculpture. Arp sculpture or Giacometti sculpture. You have a mirror inside. A very extraordinary place. Also had a dedication of education, a dedication to sharing and giving the opportunity to everyone worldwide to grab education and to learn. Inside this arch, with these huge windows, we're thinking of exchanging with Virgil. So how can we do it outside? How can we do it inside? And because we're talking about this, inside, outside, I say, why don't we put the outside inside? Because in January, it's very cold. So we begin to grab white trees, and each trees we brought, we replant 5 trees, and these trees were with no leaves, very few leaves, the leaves on the floor, as it was outside. And we put the benches all around these trees. These trees were more like an installation, diving people inside, giving them an experience of the fashion in kind of reality. It's not a set recreating. It's like something melting from the outside inside. And to light it, because we didn't want to have no technique inside this arch, we had huge balloon, lighted balloon. that main show, our first experience was really successful. And we went to work to the 2 months after for the women. For the women, we continued to research a space. Who could it be a space of architecture? And we arrived to the Palais de Tokyo because it's the proportion and the height and the concrete was really rough. And I suggest to continue this story about trees, but to make it like a forest. To make it like if the audience were almost lost in a forest. So we bring a lot of more trees. The people on one side of the room couldn't really see the other side because of these trees in the middle. And they were sitting also inside the trees, in which you had a path which was not straight, where leaves were on the floor as you were in the country. I suggested if we could have some trees upside down to make it even more surrealistic. That was accepted until the moment we were on site the night before, where Virgil was coming to see and to look how it looks and to make his change. So when he saw the trees upside down, it was more saying, yeah, that's a nice idea. But for that collection, I prefer to have everything in more natural. And I understand that was not to point out interest to a question of why these trees are upside down. There must be a reason of what we're doing. And this reason here was only a dream reason, which was not pragmatic. Pragmatic. This is a word which is very, very specific and efficient for Virgil. If you look to the way he made the shows, you have the show with a space for whatever, like 600, 700 people, and you have the backstage. And the backstage is as big, as wide as the room itself. In the backstage, he initiated the fact that Fabien is coming and they are building a set for making photos, using all the energy, all the will and the emotion of even the models, of the hair makeup artists, the hairdressers, to be able to grab photos with a set inspired by the set we have designed, but reinterpreted by François Daumal, who is creating a set for the photos. So before every models are going on the show, they are making photos inside this set, which is something really clever. And you show the pragmatism of the man, the way that he knows that everybody is the same. There was one part of our discussion. Whoever we speak to, everybody is part of not a chain, opposite. It's a group of melting knowledge and melting intention, will. That's what creates the best word for everyone, young or older, more experienced or less experienced. It's all this exchange and this sharing, which has to create in reality and not in virtual the next step of the responsibility of each one. In the word, we have all an absolute responsibility about what we know in front of the next one and in front of the other one. So basically, after he came and on the night, he asked me, how do we do the finale? I didn't have the idea of the finale and I didn't know yet. Say, I don't know yet. Let me think. Maybe we'll decide it tomorrow. Sometime we decided directly on the set after the rehearsal. And light was focused. I went back home. And when I went back home, in my home, I saw a little torch lamp. And I take my phone and call Marie, the head of the production, my amazing partner, and say, do you think it's possible tomorrow to buy 40, 50 of very strong torch lamp, the black torch lamp, like police torch lamp, but white with a wider beam? I said, yes, we can find that. So I took my bike and I go to the feeding space where Virgil was finishing the fitting with Stevie Dance, who is the stylist forever. Amazing also lady, such an eye. And I arrived to it and tried to see Virgil, and he said, what are you doing? And I said, well, I got an idea that I want to propose to you for the finale. I say, hey, what it is? Say, well, if we give a torch to every model and we switch off the light almost to the whole set, and then the models are coming with a torch lamp, not looking like police at all, just when you are lost in a forest and you just walk and you look your walk, and so one will light the floor, the other one will light the floor, the third one will light the model in front of her or him, and that's the way we're going to do it. I think the emotion that the audience will feel about that will be, I think, for me, very successful. You say, yeah, and there were Guillaume Berg, the guy who designed really and mixed all the music until the last second. Because as you know, Virgil is a DJ, but also had a knowledge of music, which is incredible. Begin to work and to rework the finale during the night due to this idea that we played. And it was a momentum that you don't expect, and the crystallization of the emotion from the collection, the setup, the light, the concept, and the audience was an amazing moment. Very strong, very strong. After this one, we have been invited to Pitti in Florence. And Virgil invited one of the most incredible artists and so generous artists, American, with whom I met a long time ago with Helmut Lang, Jenny Halser. And the object was to project on the Palazzo Pitti sentences that Jenny chose in Syrian migrant poems. If you see the step, notoriety has to help and to melt with all the different talent as possible to bring the best message, but not just like a storytelling, not using the talent to sell. No, that's nothing to do. It's just making the momentum and giving a message who can be transmitted to everyone looking to the show. So we arrive and to work on this show. The issue was that inside the PT there were a concert of classical music who could be very problematic. But with the production we went to see them and proposed that we make the show on the moment where between the act first and the act second they have a momentum of closing when normally people are leaving and to come back to the number two when the musician and the singers are taking a small rest. And that being totally accepted, it means that when the audience arriving outside to sit in front of the Palazzo Pitti and to see the projection of Jenny Halser, the music diffused, or the music playing live, classical music inside the Palazzo. But when they stopped at this exact moment, we begin the show. We had a gap of 15 minutes to do the show and the finale. And we make this show with another music, definitely made by Guillaume. And when the show finished, then the music will begin. And so the audience stays not looking to the projection that they saw with two different sound, two different harmonies. One were the classical harmony, who bring you in a certain mood, more luxury mood, more comfortable mood. And the second was during the show, the modern music, the actual music, which give you totally another angle, another light, I would say lightning of the signification of these sentences. The projection stays during the whole night, and it was absolutely an honor to be able to participate of this kind of art installation. End of the day, we're melting this message, this architecture, this different music, and the collection. After this one, Virgil was speaking more about theater. It was more looking inside couture, more looking inside how melting these two, supposed to be extremely different on one part and the other part of fashion, which be the haute couture with the exquisite incredible embroideries and cut to the ready-to-wear. So the theater came inside our discussion. And the production chose and proposed several spaces, and one was the Salvagram, which was a space where there was people dancing in the 19th century, and that had been transformed into a boxing space, and basically they refurbished it as it was in the 19th century, with this kind of mezzanine where people were looking to the ladies dancing and the people dancing down, and with this wooden floor on which we add red curtain, this red kind of between burgundy and red, which is so specific to theater. And we made this show with haze inside and these ladies walking with lights made like all around, really strong, to look like the light of a boxing space, but with the spirit of 19th century theatrical space. The show we had to do after that were also talking about theater, but try to melt, try to bring something else. So first, a total different space, which was inside the Museum of Beaubourg. And here, it was to have two spaces connected in the center, like two kind of arena cut. And then the model were going to one to the other. So it was these two population mixed, who both will see the collection, one a little bit after the other, but with the same kind of monochrome of red. All the riser, the floor, everything was monochrome red. It was no more a red and vertical, it was a red horizontal. People were seating, in a way, on the symbol of the theater curtain. And here, it was to come also with another kind of lighting. I was going to say, okay, we made last time a very warm lighting. This time, we're going to try to make a very cold lighting, but to insist on the red, which is a mix of different kind of lamps. That was quite interesting because it was really new for Off-White to have these two spaces. The show we made 2 months after, with a show where Virgil developed one product with Nike, and this product was sold in a little shop just before the show, 3 or 4 hours before the show. So a lot of people came in a really, in a way chaotic, but very interesting to see how empathy, how the kids, how these people should go also on the show. This show was done more on another kind of reflection, which was to say, how can we twist the monochrome? So we're going to a kind of blue, which is a weird blue, inside a venue, which was very classical. And again, we talk back some of the lights of balloons, but we add also to have a kid kind of smile. A lot of normal balloon, the balloon you have at your hands, creating like shape, like clouds in the venue. So it was also how to twist, how to the perception of the space with this monochrome on the floor and these clouds made with simple balloons, helium balloons. And that was a little direction touch of, you were expecting we continue in the red in theater, we are going in a total other direction, just to surprise. But because the stairs were very beautiful in this venue, it was still a feeling, a glimpse of couture inside. This done, we spoke a lot about the first show we made, outside, inside, inside, outside. And it was something that Virgil was very interested in. So we begin to go to always take a very classical building, making something twisted, weird inside, which shouldn't happen. And here we were in this amazing foyer of the building of 1937 of Le Palais de Chaillot, which is the theater of dance and theater, but mostly dance. And it's It's a really Greek proportion with the huge windows going to the Eiffel Tower. We close these windows and we bring a garden inside with real grass on the floor and path for the model, real garden chairs. The idea was to be like in spring. We were in June, so it was kind of spring, summer. But at the end, Virgil say, I want to twist it, late next snow. And so at the end of the show, production organized a certain number of specific machines who are making a specific snow, because the snow was also going on the audience. So it has to be very well thought. It cannot be water, etc., etc. So the last image people had, okay, a garden inside this building, very poetic and strange. But also, when the finale began to snow, it was an amazing experience for them. Basically, from that on, we begin also to work on the video and the photo shoot around the world for Off-White, but that was not at all our concept or light. It was all referring to the photographers. And we've been in Italy, whatever. It's fascinating because it's so the feeling that the production has to be part of a family. When you work on the show, it's so intense work, and then after you work on like the shops or the windows, and then you work on the photo shoot production, you know so well the people you're talking to, you know so well everyone in Italy here, that the message goes very, very fast. And that's what also in pragmatism they developed, who was really easy for them and very happy for us to continue. Because the break, between March to June, even if I have still contact with Virgil time to time, and most of the time through a man that I have to celebrate because he's the more efficient assistant I ever saw in all my experience, is Ati. Ati, the personal assistant from Virgil, and the more polite, efficient, fast person with precise answer I ever had. Basically, Ati told me that he's working on the collaboration, a bigger collaboration with Nike, that Nike has an agency, a creative agency called Convoy, and that they would like us to collaborate with Convoy. So I met Nordin and Juan, and they became friends. And so we began to work together on the concept of how can we make a show in an unexpected space. At the moment, the production and the girl in the production was searching and scouting for spaces in Paris, found a garage who was abandoned, and it was sold, abandoned, and in a year and a half after, it will be totally refurbished. So we had a gap of time to do things inside and to make it also affordable for security purpose and security rules. So we went inside this garage and began to think. There were several levels. The Convoy made the thing in 2 or 3 levels. We spoke about making, and then security, we've been able to do it on 1 level. So how do we do in 1 level? What do we do? 1 level inside and outside, because there was an entrance outside where there was a kind of parking. And that in the 11th, just near Bastille, between Bastille and République, almost center of Paris. Amazing. And so we decided all together to make like it was a place of athleticism where people are running. And we recreated with the lines, and in the middle the green, and then with the clock, which is turning all the second for the competitions. But we twisted to make it like abandoned. And we begin the abandoned fear because the space were looking abandoned. So we begin to have as the bush, where if the nature was growing in the middle of that, and if that the center was not the absolutely perfect green grass like a golf, but it was really messy, really, how could I say, abandoned, and the nature take the position on that. And so that was the set, which was lighting was very complicated to do and very interesting to have the feeling of outside inside. and arrived the moment of the rehearsal. The rehearsal, I proposed to Virgil that the model were not walking slow or fast, and the athlete, because they were athlete with model walking on the show, the athlete shouldn't walk like athlete, but they should walk like normal. Models and athletes should double one to the other. Sometimes model double another model. Sometimes an athlete is doubled by a model, etc. So it will create more a feeling of what's happening on this normally gymnast running spaces. And so he was interested. So we tasted, and it works really well. That's an example. So at the end, say, how do we do the finale? How do I come? So I suggest that because we had the middle really abandoned with bush, that we have couture robes, amazing, beautiful couture robes, and that every models will come in when put a position that we fix are in the bush facing the audience, and so they create the same shape circle, and so everybody can see the whole part of the collection and looking to the audience, which is also something that they're not used to. You're used to see the model on side, they never look at you. He liked that one, and all the models at the end, after turning around, take a position and really feel the inside bush space and look to the audience. Well, that's as usual, when you finish one, you have to think about the other. But what is cool, that here we had September to think to January. The next one, we were in discussion a lot about what is virtual, what is real, what is storytelling, and what is reality, what is the sincere in reality. And in this research also of architecture and research of also brutalism, Virgil met an Italian artist team who were taking photos and film all around the country of Italy about the abandoned spaces. It's like a bridge, but the bridge will never be finished. A speedway, stop. A school, a building, stop. Everything was stopped, and then reliving to nature to eat it. And these artists, Italian, had a lot of material. So we spoke about making two shows in one. The idea was virtual is the tool. Social media is a tool. Either you use by the tool, either you use it. And there is privileged people which are living an experience on the show space, which is crucial. You don't want to go to a concert or to an opera, to a theater play. You don't want to dance alone. You want a DJ to be in front of you. You want the musician to be on stage. You want the dancer to be in front of you. You want the actor to be in front of you. Otherwise, that's not the same experience. So how can people on their screen who are going to look live to the show will have an experience as interesting, as different as the one who are in the room? This is where all that meld together. There is this technique of very known of incrustation. Green background was blue background, and then you shoot the person, and then after you create whatever's set behind you want to change. So that is used, and it look most of the time really fake, even if the floor do the same. But it looked fake when it's a continuity. So what we did was first to build a huge set in a place called the Carousel du Louvre, where there was most exhibition on the last decades, and it was not considered like a high space. And say, well, let's twist it back. We take this space, we build a set with a bridge broken, with element of concrete, with metal, and with the nature eating everything, with the fluorescent flickering under the part of the bridge. So it was nothing, I would say, it was a real set And it was bringing you to a kind of universe, kind of emotion, a kind of vibe. But it was not a set to embellish everything, but just to fix a statement. From the backstage to the entrance of the space, where normally the models are just behind the door and they appear, we had 20 meters with a big wall in green, floor in green. And so the model walk along laterally, back and forth, going to the show and going back in front of that wall, shooting with several cameras. This image could be used to encrust other image behind. In the set, there was some vertical, but pieces of floor with no grass, with the same green in carpet, with vertical cameras up and down. So what happened? It happened that when the show play, people in the room see the model in the set, but people on the screen see model set, but also each time the model was in front of a green wall or in front of a green plate, there was an incantation of a film from this Italian artist. So they saw totally also a different set and a different experience that the one in the room. And this is something which is very, very, very important, to try to continue always to think about how to make the people having an emotional experience, to share this emotional experience, but to use all the tools we have and to bring different artists, different vision together to create one momentum. It would be like, this is really Virgil's point of view of bringing several people and to add them and to create an harmony or a conflict, but a positive conflict, and to share it. That was quite a new statement. Then we had to do the one after we were enjoying. So the one after, we said, let's twist the thing differently and play like it was a sandwich of light on the top and a chessboard with the concrete floor of the space, which was in Bercy, and this yellow-orangey color specific to Off-White. So we created this huge place with the square were almost 2 meters by 2 meters. So when somebody take a photo, the place where they take the photo, it means that the set will be different. And on the top of each square, you have square lamps. So it begins to make this sandwich who create a momentum of crispy, because when the people come in, I put a color on the agreement of Virgil, who made that people couldn't see the gray, couldn't see the yellow-orange. This is something weird. And then when the show began, boom, everything went white, and they begin to discover the set. This, with a path of model different for 3 or 4 audience in arena, 4 side, created a moment of community from all these people, a silence, listening to the music, and the music began to be jazz. That was amazing to have this kind of modern set and to have this concrete place with jazz inside. Again, there is a very generous feeling inside that. Emotion. So, men's show to prepare afterwards. Have a discussion, the situation in the world. But also, how we make something related to beauty. And we went to a place named the Carreau du Temple, and on that place we built a field of white flower, a full white flower, huge. People again on the arena, that was working perfectly well. Easy to look, every to feel all the emotion. One alley on the middle, very small, where the model can walk on, turn around and walk back. So when the model walk, you just see up on her knee, because the rest is covered by view by the flowers. Only the photographer can take it totally. In the middle of it, when he saw the drawings, Virgil said, I want to bring one of the sculpture of my collection. So he brought a sculpture of an alien from Futura 2000 that we put in the middle of that. Twisted. What is this? Modernity, art. So there was an installation that I proposed, an installation and a art piece from another artist, and all that meld together. This is the eye of Virgil. At the end of the show, we're speaking about what the end of the show should be, and I say, we have to do something regarding freedom. And Virgil wanted to do something political, and said that must be about freedom. And so I proposed that all the models, we couldn't rehearse and walk like a long group, and so walk on all the flowers, and in a way destroy all the flowers. But the way done, when they destroyed the flowers, some were going back up. And what is absolutely incredible is that Virgil asked Guillaume to play the Beatles song Blackbird. And the emotion here, due to the global situation,
Blackbird singing in the dead of night,
due to this music and the vision of all these models, every race together, walking on these white flowers, was a moment of absolutely emotion and tears. After we done things as shooting near the sea with them, but what was interesting was the show after also, who was in a garage in the Beaubourg Museum. I had to send everything to Ati. Virgil was not in Paris. Virgil didn't travel. He was in Chicago. So all the sets, all the focusing of light, every step, every rhythm, every question that I had on my shoulder, which was like some kind of incredible responsibility, an incredible pleasure to feel the confidence, but also a certain weight, was to share with Virgil every little element through FaceTime. Everything was, when I focused during the night, FaceTime. I said, this is where I am. Do you like it? You see how the assistant walking in the middle, production walking. This is the seat, how they are. This is the view that people have from here, from here, from here. Everything with my phone. And the show was live for him, but he was not there. And that show you have the evolution of the light turning around the room with the models. And at the finale, you have the colors going faster and faster when the model were turning around. When the show finished, we're so used to see Virgil coming. There was people waiting until they understand that I have to switch off the light and put white light for people to live. That was a very astonishing experience. I mean, it was the first time ever for me, after a while, even if I've done almost 3,000 shows and 35 years. Yeah, it was, I think, it was ever the first time that I had to do a show when the designer was alive somewhere else and couldn't come. But I think there is the connection between this generosity, this will of sharing, the will of melting, listening, and making things all together to make something happen, which is something you expect in a way without knowing you were expecting it. The way after, we were super happy Virgil was back. And we spoke about design, because he was doing his exhibitions. And he said, you're doing, yes, so can we do, yes, something together? So we spoke about cardboard. So he sent me a box of cardboard, which was an off-white box, and I began to destroy it and to make it to a level of a bench. And I give it to the foundry where I do my bronze, and they made 10 numbered pieces of this cardboard made in bronze, exactly the same relief than cardboard, but not treated like a classical bronze, but treated like a silver. And that was pieces of the set, real pieces of bronze that designed for him, and with and for him. And that was not enough. There was the idea to have a big chandelier. There was the idea to have curtains in veil that you can see through, could open. And it comes with the ideas to have the models turning and taking position inside the center of the room when you have these curtains for building a beautiful picture in the center. And then he came in the morning and said, well, I would like to have a shoe dancer, a claquette. I would like to have a tap dancing guy. So production find and look and make casting of a tap dancing guy and arrive to an incredible artist, Cartier Williams. And he came and began to dance. So much love, so much pleasure. And so you have this jazz music, you have this show, you know, like 2020 today. And then you have this guy begin to tap dance on the floor with wood, on a box of wood we made for having more. And then he went on the benches in bronze. So all this rhythm brought, I may say, again, it's an absolute emotion, simple, evident mixing of talent, creating an harmony of emotion. I mean, Cartier Williams was dancing, and you have your heart with 800 people, 900 people, with this emotion of the light were moving, the models were inside these curtains. You can see that there is something on Virgil which is very, very pragmatic, at the same time lucid and humble, simple in the sense that to be humble is not to put yourself lower than another one, is to put everybody at the same level as far we have a sharing. Basically, after that one, which was the last show before pandemic, in March 2020, we were in discussion to continue on the idea of theater of luxury of couture with the Hôtel Particulier. So we found an Hôtel Particulier and everything was built. Concept was made with a talk after the concept. But when we received the lengths of the rest, we were going wider and wider. When production discovered that the dress were not going through the doors. So we had to scout another space in like 1 week, which had been done. And on this new space, which was the empty space, totally empty space, in Bercy again, I said, well, we can recreate the salon by putting the golden chairs as 4, 6 rectangular space where people are back to back. So we'd have no chandeliers or anything. It has to come from the floor. And we begin to speak with Virgil about cars and about sport cars and about red cars and about destruct cars. And I say, well, destruct cars, it could be something negative. And compression is more about César, the French artist. So say, why didn't we buy sport cars that have been damaged, and we cut them. So we cut them from the middle, boom. And so it looked like they're going out from the floor. We take the other one, put it vertical, we have the feeling it's going inside the floor. And even one car, we could cut it longitudinally, and we put it on the floor as the other half was inside the floor. He really liked it. Then we make a lot of funny photos. We take pieces for the photo set on the backstage. And he said, I would like at the end to have sparkling red falling down. So we made these cars. The production find the car. Not so easy, really, because people keep this kind of cars and use all the pieces. Find the cars, make them cut, blah, blah. Put them on. Make the show, proportion, amazing, like art piece. It was an art installation, but art installation with a little smile. And at the end, when you have this sparkle falling down, this black sparkle on the black car and red sparkle on the red car for the finale. It was again a moment, and the first image and the last image, which are a moment of extraordinary emotion. What would I say else? That Mr. Virgil have the strength and the incredible will and generosity to want to share and to make people understand what we are trying to do at our level, but his notoriety could be used just for him, and it is absolutely the opposite. He uses notoriety for everyone to try to open and to explain. We are trying here to explain too. And thank you, Virgil. Hey, I wanted to add something about Virgil. If you look to everything he has done in the last past years, there is one link between all that. Generosity, humor, happiness, sharing the beauty of the world, the beauty of creation, sharing with people, and bring them joy, equality between. There is a real positive, always creative and positive way of envisioning every of the item he's working on. Joy, enjoy.